working.
Well, then if her mic's not working, I know mine is, so I'll
Mine's
just say hello to
working.
everybody.
There it
All right.
is. My mic's working. Shush. I hate you.
All right. Hello, everybody out there. Welcome back to the second episode of the PokéStew. Hopefully you're a returnee, returner, return person. I don't know. Whatever the word is. Doesn't matter. Thank you for coming back. If you're new, then welcome. We like to start off every one of these episodes, all two of them, with a short disclaimer that Jen and I both do not work for the Pokemon Company International, nor do the views expressed here and reflect that of the Pokemon Company International. Things that we say here are things that we know. We don't know any extra information, and things that we express here are, again, not the views of the Pokemon Company International.
There are opinions.
Yeah, our opinions, which are often wrong or bad. I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. So for those of you that are new, or those of you just couldn't remember from last week, Jen and I are going to be discussing topics about
Mike, you're
Pokemon.
leaning forward again.
Of course I am. I have bad posture. We're going to be talking about things in the Pokemon video game community, competitive side. A lot of our first episodes will probably focus in a little bit more on the organizing and judging aspects of it. But as we get the ball rolling and we get some good topics and interest rolling, we like to tie in some of the things from the player communities as well. So again, welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody? How's everybody's week going? I hope you guys had a good week. I hope it's better than my week is going. That's for sure. Week's going to get better, though, right, Mike? It's going to get better.
It only gets better.
All right.
Every day is a good day, just some days are better than others.
Right.
Okay, just remember that.
Yeah. So to recap from last time, which was our first episode, inaugural episode, if you will, we kind of went over a little bit about best practices for new judges, the differences between the different tiers of judging, and we got a little bit into hot button player issues. We did get some feedback that players would like us to cover more player issues, so that's definitely something that's going to be coming in future episodes. And I think we'll touch on some concerns for players during this episode, because as we mentioned on Twitter and on Facebook, today's topic is regionals. So I'm going to go to my what's on the menu slide. You ready, Mike? What's on the menu? Because we're clever and it's PokéStew. Yeah. Don't mind us, we're old.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so what's on the menu for this week? Each of our shows is going to start to take on a kind of a format. So you're going to see kind of this repeating theme here. So we're going to start off with the daily specials, which is going to be the news from Jen and I and things that we found interesting throughout the last week. We'll get into the main course, which will be our weekly topic. And this week we're going to be discussing regional championships because we've got... What?
We've got some regionals coming up. Is that Jared?
Yeah.
Hi, Jared.
Yeah. Go ahead and take over, Jen. I have an audio issue I'm going to take care of right now.
Okay, that sounds good. So like Mike was saying, our main course is regional championships this week, because we do have a regional championship coming up this weekend. And then one next weekend, and I believe, if I am correct, one the following weekend as well on the opposite coast. So we'll get to those dates and things like that later on in the show. But regionals is going to be our main topic for today. And then, as you can see further down the menu, everybody loves dessert. I sometimes start with it and finish with it. Yeah. So the wrapping up, as you will, of dessert is going to be upcoming events, like we mentioned, Hartford, Daytona in the next 2 weeks. Mike and I will be working, both of us will be working Hartford, and then Mike will be your head judge for Daytona. And then our collective mid-season showdowns / premier challenges that we have coming up. If you know of an organizer in your area and would like to plug their events or things like that, definitely let us know. We would love to keep a running roster, or at least plug everybody's upcoming events for this weekend. Except for Ohio, you have too many events. Mike, are you there? Is your audio fixed?
I think so. I'm starting
I
to
I mean,
get.
I can hear you.
Well, yeah,
What was
you're on.
going
We're on
on?
Skype. Oh, it just operator error.
Oh.
This guy right here. I'm old and it's late at night. It's past my bedtime. Um, but I sacrifice every Tuesday for y'all.
That's right. That's
So
right.
so we're back on track again. So I apologize that to all the listeners out there and viewers. Uh, but I'll try to make sure I don't mess that up again. I'm sorry.
You're good.
All
So
right.
we're on daily specials right now, and I think Mike actually had some news topics to discuss.
Well, I just kind of wanted to touch. Mike needs a better computer. No, I don't. Sorry.
I want to be in Mike's chat. I'm pulling up Mike's chat on my phone. That's
Yeah.
it.
So I just wanted to share news. Like, so let's see. Last weekend, we were over at the Columbus. I helped Laura
Ohio.
put on the what?
Ohio.
Oh, yeah, Ohio. I gotta love the Midwest. We got lots of events. Um, I helped Laura put on her Columbus Midseason Showdown. We had a pretty good turnout out there. Um, Lots of good stuff. She puts on an excellent show with regards to prizing. It was a 3DS, yeah,
It was
3DS
yeah, it was a
XL.
3DS definitely. Why
Yeah,
is
it
this
was
saying
awesome.
chat is currently restricted to English and I'm not allowed to chat?
Don't ask me.
It won't let me chat, Mike. I can't look. Restricted to English. What
Well,
is
use English.
this?
Use English.
I mean, I am. I said Ohio. Is Ohio not English? I mean, unless I'm saying Ohio, and that's
Ohio.
Japanese. I mean,
True. Um, but anyways,
I'm sorry. Continue.
so we had the Midseason Showdown. That was great. There was a second one that I was hoping to get to on Sunday, but family events and traveling back and forth, even though we are in the Midwest, um, uh, wasn't able to make that the Sunday one. But also heard it was another good time, um, which I think is going to hit one of our topics that we have at the end of our show today regarding the mysteries of Tom and how it handles tiebreakers and resistance calculations. Because there's an interesting event there, and I think checking out Facebook. Um, there's a couple other events over the last weekend. I think some cups or whatnot on the TCG side that also had um, some issues with, well, not issues, but challenges that came up. And
Challenges. That's a
yeah,
good one.
well, it's
Challenges.
always a challenge to try to unravel the mysteries of Tom when it comes to standings, resistance, and try to help explain that to players and other organizers because so many times it's a big black box. So we'll touch that in a little bit. And then lastly, on the daily special side of the house, before we move into the main content of the show, I just wanted to give a shout out to all the judges that were just notified this today, right? For their
Yeah, that was today, and Mike and I independently wore our Europe shirts. We didn't plan this. I put mine on because this is one of my favorite shirts, and Mike was like, "Are you wearing your Europe shirt?" And we both did this, and yeah. So in honor of everyone getting their staff invites for London Internationals today, Mike and I independently wore our shirts, which we, by the way, weren't supposed to take. Shh, you don't see these shirts.
you know nothing.
These aren't the shirts you're looking for.
No, no. But Jen and I had the honor to staff last year in London. It was a
Hmm.
great time. It was a great event. Um, Other circumstances, I didn't even apply this year, but I'm very excited for the people that I've been hearing getting
Absolutely.
invites.
Yeah.
You're going to have a stellar cast of judges and staff out there in London. It'll be a great show. You guys are going to have a great time.
Yeah.
So I
As
think
a
that kind of
matter of
wraps up.
fact, we're going to have a couple of those judges on in future episodes, specifically the head judge, which I will not reveal because I'm not sure if he's allowed to let you guys know yet. But we spoke to the head judge, and we're going to have him on the Tuesday following London. Only because of challenges with his travel, he's going to be in a plane on his way to London while we're broadcasting the Tuesday before. So
Hang
we'll
up my
have him
found
on.
plane.
He what? I
Hang
mean,
up
yeah,
Wi-Fi
I
on the
mean,
plane.
right? Come on, get on Skype on the plane.
That's
Dang it.
right.
But yeah, so we'll have him on the previous week, and like we said, the cast of characters as it is, or our dark side family that will be in London is a really all star cast, and I believe starring Charlie Darkside, as a matter of fact. Do you not know who
Really?
Charlie Dockside is? No.
Well, I know Charlie Darkside. Did
Okay,
he
make
did he
sure.
actually get an invite?
He did. Like, according to Susie, Charlie. So Charlie Darkside, to give everybody a little bit of history, is a Charmander. It's Charmander, right? It's a Charmander.
Yeah.
Build a bear that Susie Masters, myself, Kyle Littleton, and Dan Sturr put together at World Championships a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, whatever it is now. We named him Charlie Darkside, and he actually got an invite, but I believe he's going to be like stream mascot or something like that. But he did get his own email, which is phenomenal. So
I just
shout
want to know, did
out.
he get a stipend?
I mean, he eats a lot apparently. I don't
Did
know.
he get a stipend? That's what
As
I want
long
to
as they
know.
have an umbrella, because it rains in London a lot.
Can't put out that flame on the tail.
Don't follow Jen around on Saturday nights into London. She'll make you walk around in the rain with no
Oh
umbrellas.
dear God, that was horrible.
Stop. You guys had a great time. I had a
Wow.
blast. I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody did, but I had a blast. I didn't care. Anyway, sorry, I get off topic. So, as Mike was saying before I really interrupted, that wraps up our daily specials. And I am going to swap over to my regionals screen right now. There it is. So, that's our regionals topics. You have it set, Mike?
Yep, I'm set too.
Fantastic. So these are the bullets that we're going to be discussing for our regionals topic. So as you see, um, at the top there, two topics on like focusing on judges, but definitely impacting players, specifically the second one. And then the third, fourth, and fifth one are more player oriented topics, as we promised, but still overlapping onto the judge area, as it were, or the judge arena of regional championship. So, Mike, why don't you give us a go?
Go. Oh, all right. So starting at the top, no better place to start is that working for different organizers. You can ask Jen, myself, or any number of the Ohio judges, since they seem
Ohio.
to have a corner on the market for staffing a large number of events. Um, there's a lot of organizers out there, and every single one of them does something different. Actually, they do most things different. Um, so being flexible is key to working all these different events. You've got the Jimmy Ballards. Well, say I'm going to rattle off a bunch of organizers, but they're all the Midwest kind of style. You got the Krecklers, the Ballards, Farbers here, right here in my own state. And then as you start moving east and west, you start running into other organizers. Patty, you got June Nicky, Big Daddy Snorlax, um,
Kim Carey,
Kim Carey, right? Patricia,
Christine Noah,
Christine
Andrea
Noah down
Sargent.
south. Yep. So every single one of them has different personalities. Every single my son's being a nut over here on the side, but his reflections in the window.
Is it Connor or is it Jared?
That's Jared. He's
Oh.
over here being stupid. Um, but anyways, we have so many different organizers out there, and each one has their own personality, things that they really focus in on, things that certain ways that they like to do things, right? So um, I know what Kim didn't do a check-in last year, did he?
No, we did not do a check in at all at Anaheim Regionals in February. What we did do is we posted up rosters, and the players on their way into the hall had to make sure that their name was on the roster. So TCG side, they just walked in, checked the roster, and sat down and had their team sheet collected. On the video game side, we had a rather long line that went really fast for battle box locking, and then the players were allowed into the hall to check the roster and then hand in their team sheets. So that was the way we ran it for Anaheim. It was really successful. The company was super happy with how things ran, but not every organizer will forego check in, especially if your organizer is using the new Arcanine system for online registration, which I'm almost positive right now every organizer is. Um, at least all of the organizers that have regionals coming up. So um, the Arcanine system is created by Carlos and Dana Perro, and it has a whole suite of useful things for organizers. Uh,
Judges too with
well,
the
judges
penalties.
too,
Yeah.
right? That's a new thing that we're going to be testing. But basically, Carlos and Dana are big proponents of the check-in since they have that online check-in system. Um, so, like I said, it really depends on the organizer, which system they're using, and what their preferences are, and how they want to run their opening, check-in slash kind of system at the beginning of their tournament.
Right. And then you got organizers that, where their main focus is on the main event and not so much on some of the sides, and you got some that are focusing on a larger show perspective and trying to make it more of an entertaining event. Um, and then there are some that, are really detail oriented, and some are more of a hands off. Here are the loose guidelines. I have leads and head judges for a reason. So here, this is your section, go for it. Um, um, Not to say that any one is in particular better than the other in terms of how things get done and in the type of show that gets put on. But what's key to being a staff person at all those different events is being flexible and being able to adapt to each one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the end, every event that you go and you staff, you're part of a team, and so you have to bring that teamwork to bear to accomplish any tasks. And we hit a little bit about that during our first episode as we talked about the team dynamics of it. But for this particular topic here, when we start talking about regionals, it's about staying flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to adapt to the organizer that's putting on the show and to their style of getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
You may try to fight it, but the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get frustrated. The organizer's going to get frustrated. That'll bleed over into the event, and things won't go as well as they should.
Mm-hmm.
So you just really got to just. A lot of people in the military will say, the semper gumby, right? So always flexible. So that's all I had to say about that.
I mean, staying flexible is also applicable not just to the TO that's running the event, but also to your head judge and the judge team that you're working with. Oftentimes at regionals, you are not working with the most experienced of judges, and so your organizer or your head judge may ask you if you're more experienced, you're more seasoned, to say mentor a newer judge, or to say handle an entire division by yourself. And so it's all about just hitting the ground running, understanding what your responsibilities are, what's expected of you, knowing your chain of command, and just being ready for pretty much anything. And if somebody's trusting you with an entire division, or they're asking you to mentor, that's like a huge thing, because it means that they're trusting you with something important. And on the flip side of that, if you're being mentored, or if you have somebody you're tag teamed with, or your buddy with, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're green or you're a bad judge. It's just that they recognize that you don't have as much experience at the higher levels, and they're hoping to get you more contact with somebody that does, and so that will elevate your knowledge even more.
Cool. And I think that kind of transitions and segues directly into our next bullet, the guidelines for a good event, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything that the organizers and the staff are there to do is to put on a good event. Okay. Everybody will have different opinions about what's a good event. But there are two main bullets there that are kind of paramount from an organizing and a judging perspective. First of all is that event integrity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
That's a
have to
big one.
maintain the event integrity, and then you follow it up, and you accomplish that by and anybody that's staffed some of the larger events will have heard these three words: the fair, fun, and fast.
Oh
And
yeah.
you've heard them in different orders, but that's kind of the order I like to to kind of present is the fair first, then fun, and then ultimately, if things are going well, fast, right? Because without a fair event, you absolutely can't have that event integrity, and everybody's there. Even though you're having fun, and it's Pokemon, I mean, come on, how can you not have fun?
Well,
Um,
that's debatable.
yeah, well, the event itself is there to be a tournament. So as a tournament, it has to be fair. Okay, first and foremost, it has to be fair.
Right.
Um, then you want to make it fun, right? So the things that you do, you kind of want to focus in on trying to make it a fun event as well. But you also have scheduling constraints, and you don't want people there till 3 in the morning because no venue will let you there any that long, anyways. But
They're gonna turn the lights off on you.
right, so you got to be fast. And even if you're in the middle of the day, sometimes they turn off the lights when people lean up against the light switches, right?
Well,
Flashbacks to Fort Wayne and Arizona, and
jeez.
yeah,
To
uh,
kind of spring off of what Mike said, fast isn't just us turning around a round, it's on players as well. So if you're finished playing your match and you're sitting there chatting with your opponent or chatting with your friends and you're still holding your match slip, you're doing it wrong. It's your responsibility if you're the winner of that round to get that match slip up as soon as possible so that we can turn over that round so that you can continue to have a fast tournament and get through those rounds as quickly as possible so that we can all leave in a good, a good time that's not 11 or 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's not do that. So like we said, fair, fun, and fast doesn't just come from judges. It definitely comes from the players. I do want to make a side note here in terms of player and judge interaction. Calling a judge. Calling a judge. Calling a judge. Anytime you have any kind of issues, no matter what it is, connection issues, screen peeking issues, your shoe is untied, your phone fell on the floor and cracked, you need to go to the restroom, you can't find your mom, your stuff has gone missing. There's a plethora of things. Call a judge. Raise your hand. Call the judge. Don't let your opponent convince you you don't need a judge. And also, in that same vein, if you're not happy with the way that things are going with your current judge, you are allowed to appeal to a head judge. So right now, if you're coming to Hartford this weekend and you're not happy with, what your floor judge is telling you, Mike right there, down below here, is your head judge, and you can say to your judge, okay, that's great, but I would really like to appeal your ruling, or I'd like to appeal your decision. So part and parcel with the fun, fair, and fast is also understanding player and judge interactions as well.
right, and that's the fair, particularly the fair and fast part, it has equal importance or equal burden placed upon the players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Expanding upon a little bit what Jen was just talking about, players should read through the rules document. It's been updated recently. Okay, know what's in there. Know what is expected of you, what's expected from the judges, because it outlines what we're supposed to be doing, what the organizers are supposed to be doing. Read the event guidelines. It's all at the if you just Google Pokemon rules and resources, it'll
I am
take you.
pulling it up right now, and I'm going to put a link to rules and resources in the chat.
Excellent, because that'll take you straight to a main page where you can have every rules organizer document that you need. Okay, and it outlines all the expectations that are set forth by the Pokemon Company International, from organizers all the way down to players. If you have an issue where your opponent's trying to coerce you to play faster, to get moving, and you really have a question, you're well within your rights to kind of slow down for a second, get a judge. And sometimes we are busy, sometimes we're not as busy, but when we are busy, it's not because we just want to blow you off and just ignore you, but just keep trying. And if we are taking a moment to get there, try to flag down another judge, or just tell your opponent, just wait. I'm not there to try to make things difficult for players. I'm there to try to make sure that it is fair, fun, and fast. So if you do have an issue, I definitely want to hear about it, and we can try to take care of it as best as we can. And if that involves just waiting a little bit extra longer, that's fine. And if that issue takes a little bit longer, I'll tell my staff that if things are outside of the normal realm of gameplay or match play, I'll issue a time extension. It may not be huge, and it's usually never for the same amount that the time that was perceived as wasted, but we'll offset that if we really. 90% of the time, though, even if you had to wait a little bit extra for a judge or ruling or moving to a charging table, normally we don't run into a huge issue with regards to running out of time. Those are usually reserved for the Celestial mirrors or stupid Chansey, um, soft boiled, and all of the crazy shenanigans. But I won't get into that.
Joe just actually, Joe Brown, one of the casters from my stream, just made a point in my chat that it's hard to get a judge with a 45-second in-game timer, and we understand that, and so that's why calling a judge, raising your hand, continuing with your game while things are going on, is probably your best bet. Don't forget that the software does allow you to save the previous game. So if something should happen and you need to question it, do it between games if you need to. In case you call the judge and whatever it was that had happened has passed. You know what I'm saying? If something is super important that the 45 seconds is not enough, we'll deal with it as it comes.
Right.
Most of the times issues can wait until a game has commenced. So you're not worrying about playing while all those things are going on. So yes, the in-game timer is a factor in video game, whereas it's not a factor in TCG. But we make it work.
Yeah, and most of the well, that's a really good point, but most of the issues that you're calling a judge for are usually in between games. At least the majority of the ones that I've seen and had to deal with. Most of them are charging issues or, whatever it is. But you could always raise one hand because it only takes one hand to make your move selections, and just keep playing. Because the worst thing you can do is just stop playing, because then it's going to pick a random move for you, and then you're going to be bitter, and then I'm going to hear about it on Twitter, and uh, it's bad. But so just keep playing to the best of your ability. If we can't get to you right away, and we'll get to you absolutely as fast as we can. So yeah, just keep going.
Please don't select moves with your nose. Thank you very much. Don't listen to Rachel. Don't select moves with your nose. Um, I think that kind of wraps up guidelines for a good event, except I do want to make note of keeping the play area clear. And by keeping the play area clear, there's a couple of things that I want to address. And actually, Barris, who you guys may know, who's from Germany, messaged us in a chat earlier today and was like, hey, can you guys address clearing players out who are watching matches, etc.? So regionals play areas are not as open most of the time as, say, Worlds or Nationals. And we do need to keep the aisles clear, for fire safety reasons, for respect for players, etc. And so when you're finished playing your match, clean up your table, take your garbage with you, take your stuff with you, take your plushes with you, take yourself with you, and exit the play area. You can move down to a different table that's empty. You can go over to side events. You can go to the vendors. You go to the bathroom. You go see your mom. Go see your cat if your cat's there with you. Go get some food, whatever you want to do. But clear my play area. Like, everybody that's come to a tournament that I've worked at or run knows that I am yelling at people constantly, get out of my play area. So keeping it clear, clean of clutter, and clearing the play area is not only respectful for the players around you, but your organizers and your judges. And yes, your judges are not your janitors. Thank you.
Yeah,
Moving along.
well, I'm going to take a slight tangent off of that one too. So
Yes, tangents.
tangents,
I
you gotta
like
love
math.
tangents. Yeah, math. That's not a tangent.
Math
That's
is
not
a
a
tangent. A
tangent.
tangent is
What's
a thing that's off the circle.
Yeah, but it's
It's
not
a line off
a
a point
tangent.
on a circle. Come on, I know math.
All right. So,
Damn it,
anyways,
Mike.
so when we talked about getting a judges, and um, the time restraints and restrictions, I just wanted to point out too that I will also talk to my judges, especially the ones that are not as experienced, that if I do have to interact with the players and it's during a game, I will make every effort that I can to make sure that I'm not trying to interrupt you during the middle of move selections, or watching some critical animations where you're looking for an attack stat drop, or
Yep. Yep.
did they just put up Tailwind and I just missed it, or what was that? I try to make sure I try to hit you, after you had move selection, while you're waiting for your opponent to make their move selection, or we're about to communicate and whatnot, and I try to make them succinct and short and fast as well. And then picking off of the comment regarding spectators, you're absolutely allowed to spectate, okay, and there's nothing we can do to stop you from spectating, but you have to do so within the guidelines set forth. Being respectful, not interfering with the matches, not talking about the matches that you're currently watching and standing over. And that goes for both players and judges alike. I may have to come in and speak with you, but I'm not going to try to hover over your shoulder and breathe down your neck and make you uncomfortable and be that creeper, right? So yeah, that's about it. So next. What's on next on our agenda here?
Sorry, I was speaking Spanish in your channel. The next thing up is check-in, which we kind of covered a little bit, and battle box locking. And again, this is an overlap topic that covers players and judges alike. Do you want to start, Mike, or do you want me to take this one?
Go ahead. Kick it off.
Fantastic. So I happen to prefer a non-check-in kind of situation for regional championships because I feel that it gets us moving a lot quicker. But like I said, a lot of organizers are not on that same bandwagon, as it were, and so we'll do check-in. And as long as there's ample staff and line monitors and the players are on board, we can get through check-in and battle box locking relatively fast. So how can a player be prepared to get there to help us get through it, fairly fast and fun? And what you can do, and we did have a slide, and I guess we forgot to put it up. We were going to do a slide, but I'm the worst. So basically what you can do is you can make sure your battle team is prepared. The Pokemon that you want to use for today's tournament or whatever day's tournament are in your battle team. You can make sure that your team sheet is finished and filled out completely and accurately. I'm looking at all of you right now, team sheet. You can make sure that your DS is
charged.
Charged, but that's not going to help with check-in. Well, yeah, I guess it is going to help with check-in. Good point. What you can do is make sure that you're on your main screen, and by main screen I mean you open up your DS. You click on your Pokemon game, whether it's Sun or Moon, and then you go through the animations and stuff. And the first thing that you see is like your character with your name and then a bunch of other options. That's the main menu screen. On that screen, you're going to be able to see live competition, which is where you're going to go once we verify your version. So when you get on that line, you're going to have a completed team sheet and you're going to have your DS ready to go on that main menu screen. So that's going to facilitate you getting through that line extremely quickly, and it helps the judge to not have to say, okay, you're in the game, I need you to save and soft reset and go out, and now we're wasting 5-10 minutes on that stuff. Or you get to the locking piece and you have no team set. The new software, fantastically, you are able to, from within the locking software, go into your PC and move Pokemon around unless they're in your party, which then you're out of luck and we're going to kick you off the line.
Yep.
But
you can't mess with items too, I don't think, from the locking. You can just basically reassign Pokemon to different battle teams.
You can't do items. So if your Pokemon doesn't have an item for whatever reason, which did happen at internationals several times, you're going to want to step off to the side. You won't have, hopefully you won't have to go to the end of the line. That's just not fair. They're going to send you off to the side. So make sure like I said, DS is updated, team sheet is filled out, team is in the proper battle team, and you've done everything that you can to get ready to go to your locking station. Right. Did I miss anything, Mike?
Yeah, no, the ones that really slows down is when you step up to the line and you go, okay, what do I need to do? And then they just kind of stare at you, and it's like, okay, do you have a team list? Yep. And I have it. Sure. And then they reach in their backpack and they unfold this thing. It's like the
Ah,
origami crane thing. And they're like,
yes.
caw, 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 and they unwrap it and they hand you this team sheet. And then they're like, okay, now I need your DS. And they're like, oh, okay, hold on. And they go
Now they
back
go
into
back
their
in the
bag.
backpack.
They pull it out, and it's in a pouch, which is in a bag, which is in another bag. And it's like a SpongeBob episode with the chocolate bars and the bags for the bags and the bags and the bags. And
Oh,
next thing you
Lord have
know, there's
mercy.
finally a DS. And then you cringe because it's an older 2D or like a 3DS, the older ones.
That take
And then
really long to start up.
and he has to turn it on. And then you're watching him boot up.
Oh, you're breaking up.
I'm back.
There you are. Okay, we're good.
All right. So then, he gets up to his finally gets booted into the system, and then he's like, cool. And then you notice that they're not on version 1.2. They're on they're on version. They don't even have a version on the screen. They got like the base game, and you're like, oh gracious. So yeah, so definitely charged, powered up on that screen. Current version as of right now, tonight, before we started the stream, was version 1.2.
There was a system update, though, I believe, within the past week.
There was, but
So,
there was no game.
and Mike just went away. There, no, there he is. And you
Well,
went away. And you're breaking up. Are you there?
anyways,
And you're breaking up.
so between
There we go.
between now and Hartford, hopefully we'll still be on version 1.2.
Can we not do a version update the week of regionals again? How many times has that happened? It's
Uh,
countless. Way too many. I'm not happy. Please stop doing that.
right. So basically, be on version 1.2 or whatever the current version is before we start off the regionals this weekend. Have your team ready in a box. Um, and if you have like a bazillion teams, okay, so you can only have what, 6 teams?
Yeah, we
Uh,
can only have 6 battle teams.
yeah. Um, Name it, or at least at a minimum on your team sheet, have it listed. Okay, so when we get to your, register a team, we're not looking through, you know, Jen's Sunday afternoon Pokemon team, Jen's Battle Spot team. Have them identified, have it ready to go, know which one you want, so you're not trying to pick it out. All right, so that's that.
Okay, procedures. I'm not exactly. I think that was basically like the walkthrough that we just did, right?
Well, yeah, a little bit, but in terms of procedures, we do have. Um, you touched a little bit about the check-in versus no check-in, but even if you're checking in, there's a lot of different procedures that go into that check-in and battle box locking. We use those two phrases, but it encompasses a
The whole
number of
thing.
things. Right.
Mhm.
That includes uh, the actual checking in, getting your promo if there's a promo card. Do you get your swag bag there, or are you getting a ticket, or are you skipping the swag bag? Are you a VIP player and you have a special line? There's a bazillion different ways to do this check-in piece, and and the battle box locking and the team sheet collections are pretty standard across the board. It's all the other pieces that really kind of throw this process in for a loop and changes from every regional that I've ever been to. Um, we've had to collect the team sheets. Now, if you have enough staff and from a video game perspective, a quick cursory glance at your team list that's being handed to you as you're locking that box can catch a lot of errors right up front.
Are we skipping ahead to team sheets now? Are we going? Are we going there? Can we do it?
Well,
Can we?
we're not skipping ahead. We're making a smooth segue into
Oh,
team.
oh, you're segueing. Can I ride on a Segway? Those are cool.
Jen, I think even you would fall off a Segway.
Hush! I can't even rollerblade. I can't even ice skate. I'm so clumsy.
You can't even sit on a chair.
I'm apparently not. I've been moving around this entire time in my chair, so I mean.
So with that team sheet, and we talked about it last time too, but so the part of the segue is doing this kind of initial check, and granted, you can only do this honestly if you have enough staff. Um, Depending upon the number of players and how much time has been allotted for registration, some organizers have the check-in staff do double duty, and they've come right off the TCG line, and they basically turn around and they whip out the iPads, and they're just going into the next video game registration. So now their heads are spinning as well. But if you do have the requisite staff, um, feel free to take that a quick cursory glance. I'm looking at genders. Are you missing stats? Um, and heaven forbid, sometimes, oh God, we even did this at, was it Worlds or NAIC? We actually even printed out the old team sheets, where we, it was at Worlds. Yeah.
It was
So,
Worlds. It was
yeah. So at
Worlds.
Worlds for day two, right?
It was
Oh,
Worlds.
it's day one,
The entire event
whatever.
had the wrong team sheet.
Yeah, so we say, oh, we need team sheets, and we print off a bunch of team sheets. You throw them out there, and next thing you know, we're asking for information, and they're like, well, it's not on this sheet, and we're like, oh my god. So
Yeah.
um, a lot
If
of
you
time,
want the current team sheets, just to step on Mike's toes, it is pinned on my Twitter profile. So the pinned tweet on my Twitter profile is the current team sheet.
your
Please use
Twitter
it.
or Liberty Garden.
Oh yes, my personal Twitter. I will put that. Actually, I'll just link to it. I think I can link to it. I'll link to that right now.
And luckily, we've actually been on a actual solid team sheet now for a couple months now, right?
So what was
Since
that?
post NAIC, it came out right after NAIC, right? Or
Was
did it
it?
come out
No,
at
it was
NAIC?
before. I think it was. I think it was the one that we used at NAIC.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the one used at NAIC, that's the one we were using, and we've had luckily at Worlds and now for a couple mid seasons and some people's PCs as well. So it's nice. So hopefully we'll stop seeing some of these older team sheets that are missing like a bazillion pieces of information.
Right.
Um, uh, so with
Yes,
the
Diana says, does it mean we have to redo Worlds because we used the wrong team sheet? Yes.
no,
Reset.
no, no. Uh,
um, really briefly, there is a fillable team sheet that I'm going to pull up right now that I have on Facebook. One of the organizers that we know of created a fillable. What is it? Like a fillable PDF.
it's fillable
Um,
PDF. And
and you can.
and for those of you that are techno savvy and like to use Showdown, what
I
Showdown?
like techno. Techno's great.
Yeah, no, no, stop, just stop. Um,
Sorry, I'm
uh,
having too much fun
there
today.
there is a computer generated one where you can actually
Oh, right.
um, where you can actually take a paste bin from your Showdown team that you've been practicing and building and all that stuff, and you can dump it into this thing and um, uh, it'll auto generate it, and it actually does a pretty good job, assuming you did a good job with your mons on Showdown. Um,
Assuming you did a good job with your Pokemon on Showdown. Yeah.
um,
We
yeah.
all know what kind of errors that leads to. Bad. No.
So pay extra careful attention, and even if you use an auto generator, or you filled it out days in advance, or you filled it out while you're standing in line, because I see a lot of that as well. Um, do yourself a favor, double
Why won't
check that
this let me?
you don't list
Dang it.
fake out as your held item, or that you have multiple of the same items written down, even though they are different on your team. All these can incur penalties of varying degrees, which segues nicely into the
A.
application of penalties.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, and actually, I actually have somebody in chat that says, Jen, if I missed up my move order, but it's for a Pokemon that it doesn't matter, would you expect penalties to be applied? Excellent question, because
That
if
is
you
a
look
really.
there,
Who said that one? I'm pulling that up. That's a good question.
Israel BGC.
Oh, that is that's John Evans. You're paying
Oh,
me well,
really?
John.
So if we look at our bullet there, it says application of penalties. Okay, and underneath that it says guidelines. Wait, guidelines. Yes. All right, and that's an important part. So again, basing off of the years of TCG experience, when you start talking about penalty guidelines, you'll hear me say penalty guidelines.
Guidelines.
They're there for us to be able to either escalate or de-escalate based upon the situation, and that's where, as judges, we have to start applying those. So the strict definition of following the guidelines, if there's a Pokemon with moves out of order, if you just read the penalty guidelines, in that section, where there is a inconsistency between the team sheet and the Pokemon, it calls for removal of the Pokemon if you are at a regional or higher where they have the battle box lockers, or if you're at a QR event, which is below regionals, um, um, not being able to use that Mon for the rest of the event. It also calls for a game loss. Now, depending upon the player, the age of the player, experience of the player, the type of event, the size of the event, what you're doing, you can go up and down from that, right? If it's particular, then the question was posed, for a Pokemon where the move order really doesn't matter. I am a big, strong advocate of applying a penalty because you, the player, have made a mistake on the team sheet. Okay, and we've made a special strong emphasis over this last year and leading into this year with the penalties, or with the team sheets being required, and making sure that you take the time to fill them out properly. So that penalty, most of the time, and I say most of the time because I don't like definitives when you talk about penalty guidelines, but most of the time, where it's a Pokemon with a move that's out of order, as long as it's the right moves, at most I'm going to be issuing a game loss, keep them on, and move on with a strong warning to tell you to pay attention. Okay, but if it's a case where every single one of them's out of order, and you're abbreviating things, or I could escalate them if this has been a repeat offense, where you might lose them on. It just really kind of depends. But normally, under most circumstances, my personal opinion as a judge, and events where I'm head judging, I would go of applying a game loss in the next round after the error's been caught, but keeping of them on. As we get into a little bit more severe infractions, I guess if you want to call it, we can go up and down. Now, this is one of the things with the penalty guidelines, and again, I'll caveat that we don't work for the Pokemon Company International.
No,
okay?
we do not.
We didn't make the penalty guidelines.
Mike, somebody just pointed out my chat. Sorry to interrupt. Somebody just pointed out my chat, and I just checked. The team sheet that is listed online is the current one. It's the accurate one. It's the one that we use at NA Internationals. TPCI has finally updated it. Huzzah!
Excellent. That's good news.
Fantastic.
Right,
so thank you so much. Who just posted? Thank you, Jimbo. I appreciate that.
You can check out Jen's Twitter account, or you can go to Pokemon.com.
Or you can go to the link that I just put in my chat that takes you to the editable PDF where you can type in, especially if you have really awful handwriting, you can type it in and then print it. Do you have the link for the one that'll take it from, I almost said Battle Spot, from Showdown?
Not on me. Somebody out there will share it, I'm sure. And if not, we'll post it afterwards. But yeah, even if you're doing those, just double, triple check them, because I've seen a lot of just kind of silly errors that resulted in some bad things. You don't want to go into your top cut, your first round of top 8 or whatever it is, and then have a game loss just because you did something silly.
Now,
pay attention. Write them out.
While Mike does say that it is guidelines, I do want to point out that it is up to each individual judge, head judge, tournament organizer, to decide how to apply or interpret those guidelines. While there is a community group understanding, I will say that we have tried to bring everybody in line with the common thought on how to apply certain penalties. There is still a bit of wiggle room on interpretation there. And so while Mike and I are of the opinion that certain times for, those moves being out of order, we can kind of de-escalate a penalty, not every judge is going to apply it the same way that we would. And
right.
So while, yes, you are allowed to appeal to your head judge, I do want to emphasize the fact that your judge's rule at the tournament that you're at is final. And even though you may have been in a tournament where it was interpreted differently, there's probably a different set of circumstances in that instance and a reason why that judge interpreted it differently. And it's really not a good idea to then go and bash a tournament organizer, a judge, or a head judge on Twitter or Facebook, um, because they've, say, not followed the guidelines the way you would like them to. Um, Feel free, absolutely, to submit a support ticket anytime you don't agree with a judge's ruling. Feel free to ask to talk to the judge after the tournament, in a non-combative or confrontational way, to try and understand what their thought process is behind the way that they interpreted the rulings. But like I said, the judge at your tournament, if they're the head judge or the tournament organizer, the way that they interpret it is final. And that's kind of the breaks of it. And while we
Yeah.
do, Mike and I, through this program and through a couple of other venues, do try to bring everyone into a kind of community collective, as it were, there's still going to be some differences. And we kind of have to go along with it, is what we what we have
Yeah.
to do.
And as with every community, as these rules and guidelines mature, so do the interpretations and the application of them. They will continue to evolve. Um, but too, part of it is the type of event you're at. If you're at a PC at my local game shop, and we're having a great time and whatever, you might just get off with a warning, because half the time I'm going to go through and everything looks good, passes battle spot check, let's go, let's have a good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm day two worlds and I'm doing random checks in the middle of the Swiss rounds, you might get a little severe punishment. Okay, it just kind of all depends. Um,
So Diana Bros has actually made a good point. So I'll read it. And Mike, I mentioned this to you, and I wasn't sure if it was going to come up, but it has. With the ability to remove a mon through QR, is not losing a mon honor system at that point? Yes. So with the QR system, as you know, um, penalties do say, "Hey, you have to remove this Pokemon," but with the QR system, we can't.
Right.
So
Actually, the penalty guidelines does state that if you're in a tournament that's locked with a QR, instead of removal of the Pokemon, you the organizer and the judges have to ensure that the player is not using that mon for the remainder of the tournament. So that puts a little bit more burden on the judges, especially at the local level here, to have to go and make sure that each time the round starts, I come up and say, well, Jen, she just totally screwed up, and she's no longer allowed to use her Alakazam.
no! Damn you,
And
Mike! Don't take
yeah,
my Alakazam
so
away.
so I tell her opponent every round that if she uses an Alakazam, raise your hand, okay? And this goes back to raising your hand and waiting for a judge. But if she picks her Alakazam and she refuses to take it out, just keep playing and come over and say, hey, you told me she couldn't use Alakazam, and say, looky here, there, she's got an Alakazam. In which case, probably like, hey, Jen, you messed up twice. Bye. Um,
No, no, wait, I don't get no, I don't, because I'd still have 4 Pokemon. It's only when I have 3.
yeah, but you know what? You knowingly used a Pokemon when you weren't supposed to
Oh,
use a Pokemon. Failure to follow tournament directors and judges' instructions, knowingly
oh
cheating.
yeah, all right.
That falls under a different category.
Damn
Wah,
it.
wah, wah.
Oh.
All right. So,
What not to do?
yeah, what not to do? Don't be a Jen.
Don't be a Jen.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so that's basically like application of penalties and guidelines. Um,
We can do a
I
whole
mean, we
stew.
and we definitely will do a whole stew on the rules document. Mike and I, yeah, we were talking about that earlier. So,
Yeah.
moving
We'll put
on
that.
to a severely hot button topic in the community right now: resistance.
No, Tom.
No, resistance and top
Well,
8. Well, yeah, it's Tom, but it's resistance and
Tom
top 8.
Tom is a strange and magical beast, right? It's like the magic candy mountain.
Charlie, come to Candy Mountain, Charlie.
Yeah,
Come
no.
to Tom Mountain, Chart. No, we don't want to go to Tom Mountain. Thank you. That sounds even worse than Candy Mountain. We're not going to wake up in an ice-filled bath with our kidney missing. We're going to wake up with an ice-filled bath with our world's invite missing.
Yeah. So
Get it? That was
so
funny. It
so
was
first of
no,
all,
it really
Tom does some
wasn't.
squirrely things with terms of pairing up, especially smaller tournaments. And this a lot of the things that you're going to see or hear about here in a second um, really come down to sometimes the smaller tournaments where I've got junior, seniors, masters all playing in the same pod together.
Oh, not
Um,
fun.
yeah, it happens. And so you're out there, you're playing. How does Tom calculate resistance? Well, if everything's
Magic.
magic, magic. If everything is fine and hunky dory, it's your straight, you go by match records, and then your resistance is calculated based upon how well your opponents have done. Okay, and then for a tiebreaker, it goes into the how well your opponents have done. Okay, and the key to remember there when calculating resistance, if you are math savants out there, which I am not one, um, it only looks at matches that have been actually played. Okay, so if a player is 2-2, one of your opponents is 2-2, but one of those is actually a bye, it really counts as um,
1-2.
a, a yeah, a 1-2, right? So
Because the
he only
buy
he's
is
only
as
played
if it
three.
didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Okay, it counts towards his standings, right, for his match records, but as far as resistance calculation, it doesn't help him. It doesn't help you uh, as a player that played against that person. So keep that in mind because that actually came up this weekend. I know at least
Yeah,
two
Jim just put it
tournaments.
in the chat about the MSS at Mansfield, where the standings printed out fourth and fifth in a top cut of four, where the same percentage of opponents win and opponents win, and they didn't play each other. So the normal tiebreakers, if you will, were not able to apply to that instance. And so I just linked an article in my chat, Mike. I just linked the six prizes article.
Excellent.
Um, and basically that goes through kind of how tiebreakers are calculated, and you can, it does say TCG, but it's the same pretty much, except for the the ties over on
Except for
TCG that we
ties,
don't
right?
have. Yeah, IDs that we don't have. But Tom runs the same for both tournaments, for both games. So in that article, Chris, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name,
Shemansky.
Shemansky, um, all the stuff that he's figured out about how Tom works, he's put into that article, and he goes on to talk about how the resistance or the tiebreakers were calculated for the instance this past weekend. Mike.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I was looking over in chat.
Oh.
Jimbo's trying to post stuff in the chat, and I think it looks like it's posting, Jim. Hey, all right.
All right, cool.
So yeah, so most everybody out there that's been to a tournament, they understand the normal tiebreakers. When you look at match records, and if that doesn't settle it, then you go to the opponent's win percentage, and the opponent's win percentage. Then after that, the common one that everybody knows: did the players play head to head? After it's head to head, it gets kind of this magical Tom land, right? um, and Chris has done a really good job of figuring this out over a number of years and playing around with the tournament data and figuring things out to kind of lay it all out in this article of how Tom keeps going down this chain of tiebreakers to try to determine who it is. So we say it's magic, but there is rationale behind it.
It's
And
all math and things like that
yeah,
I
and
don't
math and,
understand.
and, and logic with regards to people playing each other and trying to determine who uh, who should be ranked higher than the other person. So if you're out there and if you have a question about your resistance and where you're standing, just remember that the big thing on the resistance side is it's pretty easy to calculate, but double check your opponents to make sure that if they had a buy, that you're calculating your resistance properly, because that has a huge impact.
Is there a resistance calculator online? That would be a really fun thing to have. Like
I
if
don't think
if you
there is.
plugged in the amount of rounds your opponents, whether you had a buy in there,
The
your
problem
opponent's
is
records, and
the
then
problem with the resistance calculator is you would have to put in your opponent's
Well, no, if you just wanted to see your
Oh,
win percentage, forget about
yeah.
the opponents. Because I know that Six Prizes has like a top cut calculator where if you put in the amount of rounds and the amount of players, it'll tell you the percentage of people with a certain record that'll make top cut. If they did like a resistance one, that would be really cool too.
Yeah, I don't
Get
know
on
of
it,
one.
Chris.
Yeah, I don't know of one at the moment, but not to say that there won't be one soon. I don't know.
I mean, that would be
Um,
fantastic. But Jonathan Evans actually in my chat just asked, do we believe that resistance is optimal as a system for determining cut? So I'm going to field this one actually. Yes and no. So in the smaller world of premier challenges, yes. Because doing it by resistance allows me to have nice, neat brackets that look like this and then meet in the middle and fancy things like that. Tom is only programmed for fancy, or not fancy, I should say, basic, even brackets, top 8, top 16, etc. Tom is only programmed for those things currently. Um, for your larger tournaments like nationals and worlds, where you have the top of the top, organizers and people who know the ins and outs of Tom and how to program and things like that, absolutely we should go to a record based system because now you're not punishing someone for how well or how poorly their opponents have done. So you're rewarding someone based on their record alone, not based on the day that they've had. And I know that people like Gavin Michaels don't agree with that because if somebody's had a better day and they've played better players, he believes that those people should make cut and people that have played not so great players and have bad resistance shouldn't.
well,
I
and
I don't
that's
subscribe
good.
to that. I think record based, but when you get into that system, it becomes really complicated to figure out that kind of a bracket. And so for regionals right now, because we don't have those experts at every regional, it's easier to run a consistent and integrity filled or whatever it is um, uh, tournament by using the top 8 or the top 16 or whatever it is that Tom is currently programmed with. Did Gavin change his mind recently? Because I remember him talking about something completely different. John, I'm sorry, I'm just having a. We'll talk about this offline. But like I
Yeah,
said,
it's
until Tom is programmed where it can give you those uneven brackets or it can do it for you, it's really not optimal for a regional level event to be able to do the record based cuts, as it were.
yeah, and one of the things that was posted over on my chat side is, but what determines a better player than the current tournament performance, right? Um, it's a solid question, and that's why I think Tom uses a resistance, right? Because you're looking at tournament performance and the people and the caliber of people that you've played in that particular tournament to help kind of decide that. And until we can standardize this, extended top cut where everybody with the same match record at a certain, match record goes into a single elimination bracket, um, which we touched basis on the first episode briefly, until we can get to something where it's more solid, I think we're kind of stuck with a resistance-based cut and rankings, right? In order to kind of alleviate that kind of cut. Um, um, and one of the last things I want to bring up on the subject of Tom and resistance is there's an urban legend floating around. I don't know if you've heard this one, Jen, but
Ooh, I like urban legends.
yeah. Um, urban legend floating around the tournament scene, especially in the smaller tournaments, that your resistance takes into account whether you played a junior, senior, or master if you have mixed divisions. It does not.
No, it does not.
Tom no care. Tom just know you play somebody.
Tom, no care.
That's right. Tom's heartless. Okay,
Tom is also very old and he doesn't have an entire alphabet or full vocabulary, so he no care.
he no care. Uh, so yeah, so if you're a master and you're paired with that one junior that showed up, right, and he's like, "Yay, CP, I'm a junior," and you beat them, that's the same as if you beat the world champion. Tom no care.
Tom, no
However,
care.
yeah, if you get paired up against that junior and that junior kicks your butt somehow, um, Tom still doesn't care. that's still a loss on your side. So you're right. It only looks at the players in your pod, ranks you with amongst all the people that are in your pod, and moves on, right? So if you're in that pod and it's a mixed pod because of the junior senior numbers are lower, um, they count just as everybody else. They just a
Hmm.
person. It's just a pop ID, match record. Here you go.
Yep.
Um,
Are we gonna move over to desserts now? Do we need to go back to the menu screen?
yeah, let's go back to this. Well, so
Because
yeah.
it's five. It's well, actually, it's seven after. It's 10:07 now, and people are complaining about us running into American Horror Story.
Oh dear God.
Dawes.
Let's go. Let's do
Jesus.
desserts. I like
Okay.
American Horror Story.
Oh, stop, would you? American Horror
What?
Story. Get out of here. That nonsense.
All right.
That's
So,
what DVR is for, people. Or go watch that and then watch us again tomorrow.
all right. So, anyways,
Win-win.
desserts. Wrapping up. Upcoming events. So the biggest things we've got coming up on the schedule, Jen's already brought up, is the um, Hartford regionals and Daytona regionals. Those are the two big ones coming up, right? And of course, you got a bunch of local events. So support your local organizers. It's good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pick up your
Support your
CP.
local organizers
Support them.
because without your local organizers, you wouldn't have quality judges at regionals, nationals, and worlds. Like, at all. Like, both of us got started at local events. That's how I got started. Um, I ran PCs for a year before getting a chance at national judging nationals. So, um, absolutely go out to your local PCs, your local mid seasons, support your local scene. Um, but yeah, so this weekend, like we mentioned earlier, and like we keep mentioning, is Hartford Regionals in Connecticut. I'm your VG coordinator. Mike is your head judge, and I don't know if he's still in chat, but Adam Dorcott and Gabby and Joe, and he's not here, Brendan, they will be your casters on a brand new channel called Critical Hit. And they're going to be streaming your video game regionals this weekend from Hartford and also from Daytona. So I will have that information. I think it's twitch.tv/criticalhitgg. And I believe Dawes is going to be tweeting that out sometime tonight. Yes, shameless plug. Absolutely always shameless plugs.
I heard they're driving up there in a minivan.
Minivan?
Yeah.
How do I get in on that?
I think all you have to do is ask.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Minivan.
yeah. Is there? Oh, good
Yes,
question.
there's the link that Gabby just put in. It is, well, that's Twitter. But yeah, so follow Twitter. Definitely follow the. Dawes says no minivan. Definitely go and follow to the Twitch channel so that when the Twitch channel goes live on Saturday, you are ready to go. I am going to be rehosting the channel all weekend. So if you follow us already, thank you so much, and you will get an alert when Critical Hit GG goes live. Yep, there it is. Gabby just put it in there. And I believe TJ's channel, Florida, what is it? Pokemon VGC.
Florida VGC.
Yeah, that one. The Florida VGC one will also be rehosting as well. So definitely tune in for them. It's going to be a fantastic show. They've put in a lot of work, and it has two official casters. So you can't beat it. Mike?
And Jen, can you repost the live links to Hartford, the live roster?
Oh yeah, the live roster for Hartford.
Yeah. So she's going to post that up as well. And right before we sign off here, I've got the regional schedule up as well. So if you're looking at the future events.
Oh right, we didn't get to talk about that. Let me go to that list as well.
I just threw that up there while you've been talking about regionals anyway. So at least on our side. So.
Oh, fantastic! TJ said Florida VGC just got approved for a Twitch name change. And there's the live roster for Hartford. And as you can see on the screen, we've already had Fort Wayne. Hartford's this weekend. Daytona is next weekend, followed by Vancouver. And then Thanksgiving weekend is San Jose. And we're wrapping up 2016, or 2016, wow. We're wrapping up 2017, holy crap, with Memphis. And then we'll be rolling on into 2018 and therein. Mike?
All right.
Any last words?
That's all I have. No, I appreciate everybody rejoining us and the people that have come on that are new. Um, I really appreciate the support and coming out and checking out the topics. Again, if you have anything you want to see covered, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, uh, email, carrier pigeon, whatever it is.
Smoke signals.
I can't read those.
Oh.
So if you have anything you want to have covered, just let us know.
All right. Thank you so much for watching again, everyone. And tune in next week. We don't have a topic yet.
All right. Catch you next week.
Bye bye, everybody. Why won't it transition?